Hi, welcome to another episode of Through the Storm, a show about finding hope in God while weathering the storms of life. I am so grateful that you're tuning in tonight, and we have a very special guest, Mr. Jeff Helms, who I'll introduce a little bit more in a moment. But my name is Chantelle Johnson, and I'll be your host for the evening. I'm the clinical director and owner for Soul Care Christian Counseling, located in East Charlotte, North Carolina. Tonight's show, we're going to be talking, our topic is persevering through trials and pushing through trials. And one scripture that came to mind for me when you told me what your topic was, and one of my favorite scriptures is from the book of James, the first chapter, starting in verse 2, where it says, "Count it all joy when you experience various trials and tribulations, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance." And that perseverance has to go through its whole process, and so that you will be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. And I don't take it to mean that when you're experiencing trials and tribulations that, you may not experience sadness or grief and bereavement or even anguish at times, and those things may last for a period of time. But life a lot of times is all about perspective and just being able to maybe take a deep breath, step back, and just ask, is there a reason, or is there something that I can be, that can come out of this that can be a blessing. And so tonight, our special guest is Mr. Jeff Helms. Jeff is a licensed professional counselor associate for Soul Care Christian Counseling. He works with adults, males and females, and also couples. And he'll be sharing about his own story tonight. And Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Persevering through hard times is a topic that's near my heart. I kind of can go look at it through two perspectives. I was born with a autoimmune disorder, and so I have a compromised immune system, which means it's easier for me to pick up on colds, viruses, flu season's big, allergies and all that. But it really didn't hit until I was in high school, and it hit pretty big. I had a brain tumor. And of course, they give you a label for that, which was cancer, but mine ended up being benign. And that was okay, but I had to take this steroid called prednisone, which had all these horrible side effects. And that was the hard part. And so when you're going through hard times, it was actually a mentor of mine in college said something to me that's completely counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense, but it's true, and that is to embrace pain. To look at what you're going through, stare it in the face. We do a lot of things to cover things up, alcohol, it can be sports, sex, food, anything.
Working.
But that just is kind of not even a Band-Aid. That ignores the entire thing. So looking at the pain, it kind of like looking at a horror movie. You're kind of scared of it, but when you get through with it, you're not so bad. And you're looking it square in the eye, and you're kind of assessing the situation. The second part is to surround yourself with people, with family, with friends. I was fortunate enough to have a very close family. I am an only child, but my dad has a twin brother and an aunt and cousin who I grew up with. We were kind of brothers. And so they were kind of my core support system. I had a bunch of friends in school that would help me as well. But about 17 years ago, a friend of mine went to counseling. I thought, this guy's pretty cool. I might go to counseling. And it was for some things, some medical issues, some things for that I hadn't resolved. And something therapeutic about talking to a complete stranger who you're going to get to know pretty well anyway. And through that whole process, I got healing, and you kind of get what you need that day, and you learn how to kind of heal yourself. And the last part, and this is a big thing in the world of being a counselor, is to take care of yourself. In counseling, we call this self-care, and this is something that we'll recommend both for the client, and it's something that counselors have to do for ourselves to recharge. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had a cold. I was taking this medication that made me really drowsy, and I was just out of it. I was no good to the client. I was kind of short and curt with him, and I see him every week anyway, and so it ended up being pretty good. But I just stayed home that weekend, took several naps, recharged myself.
Right.
For me, my drug is going to the gym. That's what centers me. The people go do yoga. I've even heard people say my self-care is going shopping at Target. Anything to kind of realign yourself with where you are.
Okay.
But those don't go in that order. But the most important thing is to look at the reality of it and surround yourself with friends and family or a counselor and take care of yourself.
Okay. Yeah, you hit on a lot of very good points, important points. And I wanted to ask you, so you kind of briefly shared like your transition from experiencing, the autoimmune illness at a young age. Can you tell us what that was like for you and your family?
Sure. When it showed up as a brain tumor, you always assume the worst.
And what kind of symptoms, if you don't mind me asking?
I was having really bad headaches, and I would see spots in my vision.
Wow.
And ironically enough, I'm 5'4", I'm already short. In high school, 15, I was 4'7". And so I was going to be tested for growth hormone shots, and I told the doctors about my headaches, and they gave me an MRI. And of course, you never think anything's going to come from it.
Right.
But there was a lemon-sized tumor that was causing the pressure. They did a biopsy of that, and it was benign, thank God. But that was kind of a little puzzle piece with the advances in medicine. It didn't really get stabilized until 10 years later. 10 years later. And practicing medicine is really practicing. But, yeah.
Not what you want to hear when you go to the doctor, but they're practicing.
But that was being the person being sick. I learned how to manage it. My mom had a business of her own. She did all of these things. She juggled all these things, did them very well. I got that tree from her. And so I've going to the gym is a big thing that helps me manage my medications, going to doctors. I've kind of incorporated that. Now, a new thing that has been kind of a struggle is my mother. She is, I don't know how many stages to dementia there are, but we've had to hire some outside help to come in, give her a bath, clean her up. My dad and I do what we can to clean the house, but they really, do a much better job. But being a caregiver I can't wrap my head around it. As a matter of fact, I went to a counselor today at my church. And I just told him that. Usually I have a backup plan for how to deal with something, but this, how do you deal with this?
So it's like you had developed all these different coping skills from childhood to now, and now you're going into a new storm dealing with possible dementia, or is it definitely dementia with your mom?
It's definitely dementia. The biggest kind of worry is going into a nursing home. That would mean my dad selling his house. And the nurses that come in said she's pretty far from that. And so, but there's still a lot of her that is my mother, but she's very different than what she used to be. And it's been a very slow decline since like 2011 or 12. But the past 6 months, you can really see it.
Yeah, so you're in a new storm, and so the coping skills that used to work for you and used to work pretty well, the exercise and the support from family and different things, they're not working as well. They're working and helpful, but you're having to find new ways of coping. And some people think, counselors don't have issues or problems, but we're human, and, life happens to all of us, and that self-care piece, you talked about that. That's very important. And can you talk a little bit more about what it's been like to be a caregiver?
Sure. When I was in the hospital, my mom was in the hospital with me. She would spend the night there because you get all the most relevant information in the morning from the doctors, so she wanted to be there to catch that. And as a fact, it's my supervisor that I go to to supervise my hours. He thought I felt guilty because I now need to take care of my mom. That's not it at all. I kind of see it as I'm getting to repay her for something she's done for me for, I'll be 43 this month, so a long time. And so I like that. If I didn't want to help people, I wouldn't be a counselor, and so that's kind of in me. But my dad is a lot more impatient than I am, and so he says I kind of restore his sanity.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm
is that
kind of
right?
there to kind of
Okay.
support him. So, but yeah, it has been, it's, I never thought I would see my mom like this.
That's got to be very difficult, kind of switching of roles
Mm-hmm.
somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the symptoms that your mom is displaying with the possible dementia?
At first, it was kind of being repetitive in conversation. I remember my mom, my dad had a old school friend of his come into Charlotte. They had lunch, and she commented on, I think it was a Pandora bracelet that she had like twice. And the other person said, "Yeah, you might want to get Jane, my mom's name, checked out." And she's been on some drug trials. My aunt and uncle, we would go out with them every Friday night, for as long as I can remember. For about 6 months, she didn't go out because she was so scared she was going to repeat herself.
So she knows what's going on with
Yes.
her. Oh, she's
She
aware.
knows what's going on. In the beginning, she does have a doctor she sees for dementia. She could still drive, still function for the most part.
Okay.
It's been about the past 2 years where her grooming habits have gone down a little bit. She will mumble more. There is a when I go to the Y, there is a guy there from Mexico, and we kind of speak in Spanglish, and so he's speaking Spanish, and you listen to him
So
long enough, you
Spanglish.
kind of get the gist of what he's saying. That's kind of how my mom is. She'll mumble a little bit, kind of trail off, but you'll kind of give her a few prompts, and you'll get what she's talking about.
Okay.
My dad has a very hard time with that, but
How so?
he wants an answer now. He thinks something should be done a specific way. I think today we were my neighbors have been making meals for my parents, and we had pumpkin pie. And my dad brought out, not sure what it's called, a smaller plate to put the pie
A
on.
saucer.
Saucer, yeah. And she took it and put it on her big plate. And then, Jane, don't do that. And it's like, just let it go. But my dad's not like that. And but he's learning also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does she react to when that happens?
Yes and no. It has been a big adjustment the past 2 weeks having someone else in the house. We also live in a small house, so when someone else is downstairs, either cleaning up or cleaning my mom up or whatever, I want to go downstairs and get some water. I feel more freedom to do that now because I know the person better, but it was just kind of a weird
Really awkward.
adjustment.
Really kind of awkward.
And I think for my mom, that's also been an adjustment. So she doesn't like to be told things directly to do. She'll kind of get insulted. And sometimes I think triangulation is the right word. My dad will say something that makes my mom mad, and my mom go, "I don't like him." And like, well, Mom, that's your husband. That's who you're married to. And so some of it is definitely comical. But she's still my mom.
Yes.
She lights up when I walk into the room. I'm an ugly child.
Even now.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Wow. And as you talk, it kind of reminds me that, we are not just individuals in life. We are part of systems, and, we are brought into family. And so our families are like a system. And when one person in that system, it's almost like a mobile that goes around, the baby looks at when they're babies. If they pull one of the characters, the rest of them start to shake. So if something happens to one family member, all the other family members are impacted. And I hear that a lot, in how you're describing things. What, I guess, have been some of the most helpful things, like, in this period? Because this is kind of new.
I think one thing is, I think I remember the bullet point I didn't write down, is to keep living your life. Working in counseling, you don't have a 9-to-5 day, so you have different times off. For me, going to the gym is still a normal thing that I do, and I make time to do that. I have to do a lot of the administrative stuff at work, and sometimes my mom will come in and I'm like, "Can't see this, Mom, this is confidential." You kind of have to figure out some workarounds with that. But it's all adjustment. You get used to it, and you just learn to work with it.
Okay. And I know that you are man of faith. I know you worked with Campus Crusade for Christ for several years and have done ministry in the past. Where does your faith come into play in what you're going through right now?
Oh, God is my rock. God, I don't have the words. The counselor I went today asked how my faith has been, and honestly, we probably haven't been to church in the past 3 or so months. We would always go to the Saturday night service. That was what my mom was the most comfortable with.
Okay.
And now we have someone coming on Saturdays. Sundays are off, and but we're so tired at the end of the day that we just don't go.
Okay.
Yeah, but prayer has always been huge for me. I mean, that's a literal direct connection to God, and so that I've never stopped that, even if my prayer is help. And I think one of the guests we had earlier was talking about taking that time to meditate. I would have, when I lived in Orlando when I worked with Campus Crusade, I would have a quiet time in the morning, which was great. Now when I do that, my mom's going to come in, I'm going to get some kind of interruption. Okay. So now my quiet time is in the parking lot at the gym in my car.
Okay,
and
so
that's where I pray.
Adjust.
Yeah. So you just make it work somehow.
Okay, okay. And prayer, yep, you can do that anywhere, anytime.
Yes.
And God hears all of them. Wow, that is really awesome. And you also wrote a book. You're an author of a book.
I did.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. It is called Persevering. I had always had a goal to write a book, and kind of a quick story on that. When I was with Crusade, you had to raise your own support. And when I was living in Orlando, I'd come to Charlotte on a support trip, and I think I had about 3 appointments lined up on this one day, and they all canceled. And so I think I went to a coffee shop that's now closed, and I just churned out like 3 chapters. And one of my supporters, his son, is an author. And so I was here, I want to say summer of 2009, also raising support, going to another team, and he challenged me to take big steps to finish the book. My goal was to make my book over 100 pages. So I think on Microsoft Word it's like 112. When they format it and do everything, I think it was like 82.
Okay.
And it was self-published. It was a lot more money than I thought. But I can say, hey, I've written a book. But it was about some of the things I talked about earlier, about having the autoimmune issues and growing up with that, incorporating that to my life, incorporating faith. A big part of the book is writing about things that I learned about God through things He has done and just with my health, through other people, doctors. I think I watched on 700 Club, Pat Robertson said this medication is a gift from the Lord. That is medicine. Those are supplementing your body.
Right.
And so doctors, counselors, those are from God.
Amazing, amazing things. And so, as a counselor and working with you, I know that you have like this gentle, calming spirit and presence, and you're a very caring person. Was any of that like developed through your experiences throughout your life, or is that your natural personality or combination?
I want to say yes and, or yes and no. My first assignment when I was with Campus Crusade was at University of Chapel Hill, and it was on a college campus. And I had about 4 guys that I would disciple when we had a Bible study. I loved that. Couldn't get enough of it. Evangelism, knocking on doors, I could do that.
Wow.
But the one-on-one time is where I most flourished. When I moved to Orlando, I was a trainer for the new staff that came into this particular location. And we had a 2-year curriculum you would go through with them. Through that time, you get to know the person very well.
Right.
And it was, I wouldn't say a mentor relationship, it's a trainer-trainee relationship. But I enjoyed that, and that wasn't always the case according to how many people we had coming in. And it was a colleague of mine that mentioned he thought I would enjoy getting a counseling degree. I'm like, what? Isn't that a master's degree? And I had taken some seminary courses, and I think I took one called Church History. I got a D twice, so it counted. So I was like, I'm not doing that. it was this school that ended up doing night classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was through 2.5 years that I got my degree.
Okay.
And psychology just was a natural fit for it.
Okay.
Natural fit for me, and I understood that.
Okay. And you do a great job as a counselor,
Well,
I have to say. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And I really appreciate you being on the show today. If you had to speak to someone who might be going through a similar situation that you're going through, how would you give them some encouragement directly, if you had to sum it up in a few words?
Yeah. Don't give up. It's not the end.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was taking the prednisone, it makes you very puffy. I think you retain a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my dad saying, well, this isn't going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot of comfort to a 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But 42 now, that was, it's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Time goes by so quickly. There's a ton of advances being made.
Mm-hmm.
You have people that care about you. Take advantage of that. It does take some initiation on your part, but it is worth it. Some people, will fail you, but not always. So keep trying. Don't give up.
Okay. And you're kind of reiterating from James 1 that perseverance, keep pressing through, don't give up,
Mm-hmm.
Find support systems. And you are very blessed to have your family as
Mm-hmm.
support systems. I know sometimes people don't always have, the support of their family sometimes. You would think that they do, but not always. And so some of your other supports outside of your family have been colleagues?
Have been colleagues, just my friends from school. I was part of a really amazing youth group growing up. It was actually a different church than where my parents went. And my parents saw my excitement for it, so they were like, yeah, by all means, go there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the summer after my diagnosis that I officially accepted Christ. I think I knew the gospel beforehand, didn't realize I had to have a relationship. But God had used that tremendously. I was trying to handle all this stuff on my own, and I knew that Jesus died for my sins. But when someone said, yeah, Jesus wants to carry your burdens for you, I'm like, yeah, sign me up.
So it sounds like your trials kind of pushed
Mm-hmm.
you into the Lord, into Jesus,
very
and into
much
your
so.
faith
Mm-hmm.
and finding Christ. Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And and that's what this show is all about. For all of you who are listening and tuning in, we want you to be encouraged. And no matter what situation you may find yourself in life right now, no matter what it is, no matter how daunting or how dark and bleak it may look, a health challenge, a loss of a relationship, a loss of a dear loved one, so many things that bring us pain in life. But no matter what it is, as Jeff said, and I encourage you as well, don't give up. There's always hope. And, God can take situations and turn them around in ways that you just never even can imagine. And so if you just hang on, one more day, you just, want to keep on and see what the end is going to be, because it can have some beauty come out of those things. And do you have any last words, Jeff, that you would like to share?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's
You covered it all?
Mm-hmm.
All right, then. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I really
you.
appreciate you in so many ways. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Through the Storm. I encourage you to visit the website for the Wake Up Call radio and TV network. There's many great speakers and hosts of different shows where you can just find about almost any topic that you need, and it's growing. And but there's a lot of encouragement out there. And thank you for tuning in, and I hope you will tune in next week and join us on Tuesdays. And thank you again. Bye-bye.
Awesome.